What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the second episode of How We Hustle, the show dedicated to helping you stack dead presidents and keeping your sanity in the gig economy. What's going on, Kim?
How's it going?
Good.
I always love that intro. I don't know why, but I always love it.
So, I got a question for you right off the bat. Before we get into it, I had a passive aggressive moment during a delivery over this last week. And I'm curious to know if you have ever had a passive aggressive moment.
I'm not really a passive aggressive person, so to speak. So you
Oh,
can
come
slap one on me and see what I would do.
Okay. So here, and this will be a quick story. It'll go quick, I promise. So I, over the years, have delivered to this customer many, many times, and this customer always has a habit of tipping just enough to get me to do the order. Right? Any less, and I probably wouldn't touch it. So, and they always order at night. Well, almost always, and they never turn their lights on. Right? Like I think as drivers, we kind of have that we expect it to be the darkest house on the block when we pull up, right? And so I was feeling particularly persnickety. And the so I get this order and I go pulling up and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna teach them a lesson. And this was on Uber Eats. So I when I was taking my delivery photo, I intentionally did not turn on my flash, and I took the darkest freaking picture I possibly could have, where you just couldn't see anything. Now, of course, this could potentially come back to bite me, right? Like they could claim they didn't get it, but I've delivered to this person several times and I've never had an issue. So I was like,
But did
no,
you get
not
that message then? Oh, wait, was it DoorDash or Uber Eats? It was
this one was
DoorDash,
Uber
right?
Eats.
I was gonna
This
say, did you
this
get
was
that
Uber Eats.
message that your picture is too dark?
Right. No, no, no. So that was my passive aggressive moment. I was just like, "Mm," and I sent it off.
Okay.
So I don't know. That was my passive aggressive moment. So yeah. Anyway, welcome everybody. This is our second episode of How We Hustle. We are grateful that you guys are joining us again. This is going to be a particularly interesting show. I wrote the show notes from my perspective pretty much exclusively, so it is almost certainly going to piss Kim off.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
we need a lot of tiebreakers tonight. So before we get too far into the show, we got a couple of things here to tell you guys about. Number one, we now have a podcast. So the link for the podcast is in the description. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you can click the link in the description, or alternatively, you can just search How We Hustle. So we would love it if you would check us out there if you're on the go and can't catch us live. Just remember to look for something that is explicitly branded How We Hustle. If you're not watching it on our YouTube channel or something branded How We Hustle, you are not supporting us. You're supporting somebody else. The next thing, Kim, we have an email address if you guys wanted to get in touch with us and send us interesting stories and screenshots and stuff like that. So that is howwehustleYT@gmail.com. And that will also be in the description. And the last one, we also set up a phone number where you guys can text us. Put this in your contact list. The number is 678-888-3910. So this is not my personal number or Kim's. This is just a text number that you guys can reach us. We will check this about once a week. So please don't expect a quick response. But if you stumble across anything interesting, we would love to hear from you.
We're getting all high tech, guys.
We're getting high tech. So, Kim, how have the last couple of weeks been for you?
Crazy busy as always. Just going out. I still work 40 to 50 hours every single week on top of everything else. And my daughter turns 7 tomorrow. So I'm getting ready for people to come to my house tomorrow and celebrate her birthday. So I feel like it's just been a whirlwind of 2 weeks. So it hasn't stopped. Never stops. So keep going.
Happy birthday to your little. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
So,
She's very
and
excited. I said, just don't wake me up at 3:30 in the morning like Santa, please.
You just don't stop, do you? You
No.
stop. So, Kim, tonight's episode is all about mistakes that drivers should probably avoid in 2024. And we're going to talk about a series of mistakes, and you and I are going to duke it out on a couple of these issues.
Ruh-roh.
We're going to slowly work our way up to what I think is probably the single biggest mistake that a driver can make in 2024. And that there's going to be some moments of tension here, Kim, because I know that we're not going to see eye to eye on this.
We never do, but that's the whole fun of it, isn't it?
Usually, so Kim, we had a really interesting show last time where we had talked about adaptation, um, like destructive adaptation versus productive adaptation. So let's start with adapting, right?
Mhm,
S- You were going on and on about how drivers need to adapt.
mhm.
And and I agree with that to an extent, but there's destructive adaptation like we had talked about, and then there's productive adaptation. So why don't you go ahead and just give your quick 30-second pitch or whatever.
Oh, 30 I only get 30 seconds? I'm
Take
long-winded,
how
you
long
should
you
know
need.
that
It's your show too.
by now. Um, First of all, I do think one of the biggest mistakes a DoorDash driver can make in 2024 is not adapting to whatever is going on. We saw, God, last year, how many changes just in DoorDash alone. I feel like every single time, every week, there was something new coming out, and if you didn't adapt as a driver, you kind of got lost in the mix, and you could have lost potential money by not adapting to what was going on. And one of the biggest things that, to me, happened was base pay cut. On top of that, orders decreased. We saw sometimes orders just not even coming in, whatever DoorDash was doing with the app. So to me, it caused me to take a step back and to adapt the way that I work with DoorDash. That's first thing. But it also got me into learning even more apps than what I currently have. So, and I know we're going to go into this a little later in the show, but it really caused me to not just multi app. And I've been multi apping now for years, right? This isn't our traditional job that we all have. Like, it's literally multi apping for me has always been the way of me making money, but now it's multi niching. It's not just food delivery, it's catering apps, it's grocery apps, it's the last mile apps, like whatever it is, it's going to make me the most amount of money. That's what I'm doing, and that's kind of how I adapted last year, and I'm adapting this year.
Okay, so my idea of adapting is very different from yours. We need to have set minimums for the time of day, day of the week, etc. We need to know if okay, if it's Monday during lunch, right? Like this is the minimum I'm going to operate. And when the base pay goes down, right, you don't start taking those lower paying orders because your cost to operate isn't going down with it. So you really
Yeah.
do need to keep no, you need to stick to your guns. And you can't just accept that new normal, right? Yes, unfortunately, it gets pushed more and more onto the customer with base pay reductions. However, more and more, that is the only way we are getting paid. So, and by continuing to adapt in the way that you're talking about, it sets the precedent that yes, we are going to get these bad orders delivered no matter what they're paying us.
So, what your idea of a bad order is not the same idea of what my bad order is. And I think that's where the disconnect is. And I'm not telling you to take $2 orders. I'm not telling you to even take $3 orders. You're a driver, you can take whatever orders you want to
So,
make your
well,
money.
okay,
But
so
I didn't interrupt you. Hold on. Hold on. I think,
10 minutes in, I'm
for
already getting yelled at.
for me, you know, to me the hot button issue is, and I said this last week, the collectors don't really care if you take a $2 order or a $6 order or a $20 order. As far as I'm concerned, my bill collectors just want money. And it's really, I think it really depends on people's situations and what they're going
So
through and their life and what their own minimums are.
okay, so yeah, I mean the bill collector thing is fine, right? But I don't understand how you get from thinking that a $4 order is going to be okay to pay your bills
Why isn't a
when
$4 order okay?
well, I mean when it used to pay 475, right? Your options are to at that point, the way I see it, your options are to work longer, like put in more hours or just take home less money every month.
But just because you take a $4 order doesn't mean that you work less hours. Just because I take a $4 order, it doesn't mean that I'm
No, no,
out
more
until 10
hours, not
o'clock.
less hours.
No, I don't work more hours than what I currently was. I just
So
found a new way of making money,
but
but
help me
doesn't mean I
understand
don't
that
take
then,
4.
because if you're adapting to a new normal, right? Like if you're lowering your standards to adapt to a new normal,
But I've always
then
taken $4 orders. Even before all of this happened, I've always taken it. You can't tell me, and we're gonna go back to you brought up profitability.
mhm,
So you can't tell me that a $4 order going literally up the street a half mile away is not profitable. It might be a low tip order, but it is not profitable. I'll do those all day long, at least once an hour. If I've already had $20 in an hour, I take one more $4 order. I now have $24 an hour. They tend to add up. Now, am I going to do it in the middle of dinner time? Absolutely not. Am I going to do it in the middle of a lunchtime rush? Absolutely not. You have to really pick and choose the times that
so okay, so I get what you're saying, right? But I think that there's better ways to adapt than to just be like, well, screw you guys for lowering my pay, but I'm going to go ahead and accept these orders that I wouldn't have accepted before.
but I would
So
have
I mean,
accepted it before.
okay, okay, all right, Kim. If let's put it, what is your absolute floor? What is your absolute bare minimum that you are willing to accept per order?
$4.
$4.
That's
Okay.
my bare minimum.
What happens if the pay goes down another 50 cents in the next like
Then
six
I'll make
months?
that adjustment when it comes. I hate to say, even if it's going a half a mile, there's a chance because for me with DoorDash, I maintain a high AR, right? So I am
Okay.
always, well, I have been a top dasher for almost a
So
year
so
and a half
I
now.
do have to stop you there. So when you
Yeah.
say you would adapt if it went down by 50 cents an order, right?
Mhm.
Are you saying that you would take it from $4, like the minimum you would accept, to 3.50?
I can't even tell you until it really happens, to be honest with you. I really haven't made up my mind yet because it really hasn't happened. But if a 350 order is literally going point 0.2 miles and I'm already sitting at a McDonald's, then I might. I really don't know if it's gonna help me still maintain my high AR and DoorDash. Like it's something I might entertain.
Have you had to replace your car yet as a result of doing gig work? And that's not a gotcha question. I actually don't know.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I have, and it sucked. It was extremely unexpected. Things were perfectly fine one day, and then the next day, I need a new car. So I can tell you from personal experience, it hurts bad when you have to replace a car that you weren't expecting to replace. And while you say our bill collectors or the people we owe money to or whatever don't care if our pay goes down, well, that's true. Our cars also don't care if we're only making $2 an order or if we're making $10 for that order. They're gonna break down when they're gonna break down.
But
So by God, I'm not gonna lower my standards to
y
just keep the tires turning.
you can do that. It might work for you because you're your own boss, right? You're your own independent contractor. You make the decisions that are best for yourself. I make my decisions that are best for myself. And, it I had last week a $1,400 week and I was still taking $4 orders. So you can't tell me that by taking smaller orders doesn't lead to a better week or even more money. It does, because I'm living proof of it. So, and 1,000 of those dollars just came from DoorDash last week alone, not along my other apps. So to say that it doesn't work, it does work for me because I'm living proof that I'm going out, I'm still hustling, I'm still doing what I need to do in order to make my money. And for me, it's keeping my wheels moving. I'm not telling anybody to do what I do. I'm just telling you this is the way that I do it.
Okay. So, Kim, I understand that you and I have a different way of approaching this, but I think that there's probably a healthier way to adapt that probably more drivers could get behind instead of like doing this like back and forth, like who's right, who's wrong here, even though the chat clearly knows that I am correct in this.
Yeah, you know you're not.
I
You know
absolutely
you're not.
am. I
Like,
absolutely
you're not.
am.
No.
So,
Hold
all
on.
right, look. So, I mean, I got to be honest, Kim. I mean, what we're talking about here is eh, I think that you're practicing destructive adaptation. Like you're
No,
awesome.
I'm not. How is
I
that
have nothing but respect for
destructive?
you because you're running your car into the ground and you're accepting new
Have
normal,
I
which drives
okay,
the pay
have I
down.
replaced my car yet?
No, you haven't.
Now, have do I have a car fund in case stuff happens to my car? You don't know that,
I
but I do.
I
So I think you
I
need
don't
to
know.
be exactly, but I do. So you have to, if you're smart
So
about your money and
let's
the
look at this
nah,
logically though.
stop, stop,
No, no,
wait,
no.
no,
Like
let me
hold
finish
on. No, no,
my
no. Let's look at this logically though for a second.
what
Because
you didn't
okay,
even let me
if
finish.
okay, all right, go ahead. Go ahead.
If you are smart with your money and me, I take an order every single day, no matter what is happening, and I put it towards a cart fund. If I needed to go out and buy a car tomorrow, I could. So when the worst case scenario happens, like I am smart about it and I know what I'm doing. It has nothing to do with me taking a $4 order because you're already talking about profitability. It is profitable to take a $4 order going 1 mile. Would I take a $4 order going 4 miles? No. But if it's going right up the street, why wouldn't I?
Okay. So and again, my whole scenario here is not having to accept that to begin with. But Kim, what I was going to say is you're talking about having your fund, right, to replace your car when that inevitably happens.
Yeah,
And people like don't think that that's not going to happen. It's a reality of gig work, unfortunately. If you do it
it
long enough, everybody's going to have to replace their car. We're all going to have a major oopsie. So, but Kim, I mean, if you're taking okay, like let's take the LOP out of it for a minute. Let's try to even this playing field a little bit here, okay? If you're taking $4 and $5 orders and I'm taking $9 and $10 orders, who is going to be able to put aside more money comfortably?
I am because I'm not stopping. I'm keeping the wheels moving. While you're stopping, I'm still making money.
Okay, that's true. But if you're taking $4 and $5 orders, right, and I'm waiting an extra 10 minutes for something that's paying twice as much, I would say that
But
I'm
I can
probably
have that
coming out
$5
ahead.
order done before you even get another order, and I have 5 more dollars in your pocket
And
while you're
that's
still waiting around.
extremely dependent on the market, right? We can't set that precedent for everybody because that in my market is probably not a reality for most
But
people.
once again, I'm not telling people to do the same thing I'm doing. I'm telling people this is the way that I'm doing
Okay.
it, and it's working
And
for
I'm not
me.
telling people not to do this. I'm just giving two different perspectives here, Kim. So, but like let's segue a little bit here. I think that there's ways that we can adapt that aren't necessarily destructive. So I've talked about this in videos a couple of times. There is a city in my market called Ferndale, and it's like one just one town north of where I drive. And it's substantially smaller than the main market here, the main city. And how do I how do I explain this? It's not as densely populated with restaurants, but as a result, there's far fewer drivers. So on days that it's slow, traditionally, like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, a driver could be waiting around in my city in Bellingham, for 10-20 minutes in between offers potentially, but they could also go uh and go up to Ferndale and like wait just a couple of minutes in between offers. Like that to me is better for adapting than taking lower paying orders.
I you know, I'll agree with adapting to different areas. I'm now working in a completely different area than I used to work, just because, and we've talked about this before, is oversaturation. I talked about this last night, is like oversaturation is real in my market. And it's something that has affected me. I'm sure a lot of it has affected you. Talk about like a showstopper right there. To me, that's like a showstopper on itself. Um, but it caused me to find different areas, work in different areas, work in different zones. So that is a real thing. It is a different way of adapting. I think a lot of times people get comfort or comfortable in their own areas and in their own little bubbles and don't explore outside of their area. And that is one thing I will encourage everybody who's having a hard time making money to do. What works in one area might not work in another area, or you might find a different area that gives you more money. And that's the whole entire point. Like, I am all about experimenting with different programs, different areas. Like,
Mm.
experiment all over the place. You never know what's gonna come out of it.
So I want to address this comment. Maybe if Zach's acceptance rate was higher, he would see better offers. So I do find I do get better offers, and it's not because of my acceptance rate. It's because of DoorDash and Uber Eats and Spark. So I have done videos where I have reset my acceptance rate, and I show the offers I get. They are the same garbage that DoorDash sends through all the time. I started driving when Top Dasher was just dished out when you were brand new. It made no difference. The average order was still paying like $6, $7 in my market. So acceptance rate here, not a thing. Proximity matters here.
See, for me, like, I can't say that acceptance rates bring in more money. I can never say that acceptance rates, give you priority, because that doesn't work in the DoorDash land. For me, I have a high AR and I maintain it because
Yeah.
of Top Dasher and Dash Now. Like, in my market, like, I need to be able to come and go as I please. And that's the way to make money in my own market. Like, that's what works for me. I'm not saying it works for everybody. That's what actually works for me. Like, I can't, even if I'm not a Top Dasher, you try to get a schedule, you can't get a schedule. You try to get on, it's gray. And I know a lot of dashers out there experience the same thing. Not only that, but for me personally, my schedule is literally all over the place
Yeah.
between, YouTube and home life. Like, I need to be able to come and go as I please. Like, that's the way that I make my own money. So that's why I maintain a high AR. But I don't think high ARs give you certain priority access over orders than other people. No, the one and main focus of Top Dasher is the scheduling feature, which is what I use it for.
Okay. So and I understand that. And I'm not down on anybody who feels that they have to raise their acceptance rate to get the hours that they need. My gripe with that is literally just that you shouldn't have to hit a certain acceptance rate to begin with.
Oh, I
Again,
I
that's
totally agree with that. I think
yeah,
DoorDash is crap for making drivers go through the rigmarole of by having a high AR. Like, I think it's, especially when acceptance rates are illegal according to independent contractors.
yeah.
Like, it shouldn't even be a thing. Like, how a lot of these companies function and get away, DoorDash specifically, with what they get away with, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you, man. And then that one's you, Kim.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Much appreciated.
So, again, I want to pull this one up as well. So basically, like, how long am I waiting for offers? No longer than a Top Dasher in my market. And I know this because I know many drivers in my market. I make it a habit to get to know people here and to strike up conversations. So I will frequently talk to drivers while I'm waiting. And while they're busy running DoorDash with a 60, 70, 80% acceptance rate, I'm multi-apping, and I am usually staying busier than they are. Kim?
Thanks, Thomas. Much appreciated.
So it's not just the quality of the order, though, Kim, that is the problem here. I think that drivers get comfortable doing the same things that we're used to doing,
Agreed.
and there are ways that we can adapt with that too. So, like for example, like we could try changing the hours that we work. And I realize that this won't work for everybody, but that's something that I have had to do in the past. Like during the summer here, my market, like most, is just crickets. And if I don't change my hours during the summer, I'm going to make substantially less. So instead of going out from, like 4 p.m. to like 7 p.m. In the summer, I go out from like 7 p.m. to like 9 p.m. So, people start filing in, going back home a little bit later in my market in the summer. And so I'm not out wasting my time when nobody's ordering. So hold on one second. I want to pull this
You
up.
know, my hours vary too. I mean, I'm kind of opposite of you, and this is really, and I've said this before, so I apologize if I feel like, I'm a broken record when I say this, is in my market, summer is not summer slowdown in my market. I am by the shore, right? So, I get people flocking to my area. It gets jam packed. Um, Tourists up, the I can't speak, the New Jersey coast. So for me, like I work actually more hours in the summer trying to get in as much money as I possibly can. So that way when the winter time comes in, actually scale back on my hours. It kind of flip flops a little bit in
Yeah.
my area, but you need to know, at least in my opinion, your own area and how it works. I mean, when we went through like the massive slowdown, what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we were all like, oh my God, what the heck is happening? Like,
Yeah.
I used to start my morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. There was no need to start my
Yeah.
morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I started it at a 10, and I found out that I was making the same amount of money as I was starting at 10 than I was 8. I just got a lot more work done at home than going out and doing traditional, work as far as gig work is concerned. So,
Yeah.
it really is adapting to really understanding your
So
market and what
so we
it
agree
can
on this one.
produce. Oh my God, I would think we did.
Okay. We did. Yay. Uh, Cray, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. So, okay, cool. I'm glad. And I came out kind of swinging there with the order pay because that was kind of on my mind. I've seen a lot of like low paying orders in my market. And Kim, I will say, even though I don't agree with you on your method, I do have to say you have a process for what you do. And even though I don't agree with you, I can respect the way that you go about it.
Aw, thank
So
you.
I do have to say that I will. There's the peace offering. So
Oh,
um,
wow, that's an olive branch for you.
that was a hell of an olive branch. So another option for some drivers, and again, this isn't going to work for everybody, but it's certainly an option. Is you can try different markets, like different zones. Excuse me. So and interestingly, so I have one. Like my market is just like one zone, Kim, and I kind of feel like I almost feel like my market is broken up into different zones, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I've got like kind of like the downtown area, which is its own zone, even though it's not like actually marked like that on the map. And then there's like the mall area, that's kind of like its own zone. And then there's the area I wait in, Barkley, which is kind of its own zone. So I guess my question for the chat is: do you find yourself tending to stay kind of in the same areas, or are you finding yourself like literally all over the city? And while we're real quick before
Yeah.
we hop in there, Sarah Sue, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I think every zone is different, in the way that it operates. Like mine are very clear zones. It might be the same zone, just different, I'll call them hotspots, so to speak, at least in DoorDash terms. So, I have a pretty big zone in itself, but the hotspots move depending on the different areas. Like I have a downtown area, I have a mall area, but like I said, I'm not working in the areas that I normally work in. So I started learning a whole different area. So to me, it just depends. A lot of areas in New Jersey, they're, smaller populations, but a lot of them have, a really punching power when it comes to some of the bigger orders. So I think it just depends on your area. It really depends on, what's going on in your own market. I think it's just very dependent on where you work.
Yeah, so that's fair. I find though, at least in my market, and I can't speak to any of yours, so Kim chime in, and I'm sure you guys in the chat will let me know too. But I find that the type of orders I get vary depending on where I'm accepting them from, and I'm not talking like fast food versus like sit down restaurants. I'm talking the area of the city that I'm in. So if I'm waiting at the mall, like we've got some sit down restaurants, we've got some fast food, right? But if I'm at the place that I usually wait, the average order value that I see is like $2, $3 higher on average. So I think that plays a big role in it too. I think drivers are kind of used to a specific spot. But my question is, could there be somewhere that's more lucrative in your market?
Oh, there definitely is, but the problem is with my market is those lucrative areas have already been oversaturated. So you can either
Mm,
go to those lucrative markets and sit around and wait for an order, but the orders you get are going to be good orders. Or you can go to a busier area where there's less drivers, but you might not get the higher ticket or the higher dollar amount that you would in the lucrative areas. So
yeah.
it's kind of like catch 22, and you kind of have to outweigh, and you also have to experiment. Will you make more money in this area by waiting around and taking a good order every once in a while, or will you go to this zone and take order after order after order, but it might be $5, $6, $5, six
Mhm.
dollars in opposed to like that $120 order. To me, it all adds up the same. You might do one order for 45 minutes, but then in another zone, you might be doing four orders in 45 minutes, but the results might be the same.
So I want to highlight this comment from Crick Renee, and this is pure gold. If you guys have never tried this, you need to. So she uses the DoorDash app, like the customer app, to research different zones to work. So this is a gold mine, and you can do this with the Uber Eats customer app, the Grubhub customer app. It doesn't just have to be DoorDash. So you want to be looking for places that are running promotions like fee free delivery, buy one get one free, and you want to be positioning yourself in those areas because those tend to be your true hotspots.
Yeah, I always look to see who has the free delivery fees, because whenever
Mhm.
someone sees free delivery, that's a very good sign that they're going to be delivering from those restaurants. So that's one thing I go into the customer DoorDash app to go take a look at.
Yeah. So that's a great tool, but so like we're kind of getting somewhere here, Kim. It's not just the adapting by taking lower orders, right? Like we can change our hours, we can try different zones, we can move around the city. Um, i- which of those would you find the most effective in your market?
That's a good question. For me, it was changing zones this past year, but I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing for me would be, in the way I made my money, was switching niches. So not just doing food
Mhm.
delivery. And, I, not that I'm still a big fan of it, because I'm not. And and we've talked about this before. Just because I make money grocery shopping doesn't mean I always love grocery shopping, but I've been making a lot of money on Instacart lately, grocery shopping, catering apps, like just learning literally new ways of making money. That has been really the biggest, I guess, adapting that I've done this past year that has really helped me in literally my own area. So, what do you guys think? What has been your biggest adaptation? Is that a right adaptation?
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna go with it. In your own markets, there, like, what did you guys do differently this past year that has helped you make more money?
So I think for me, Kim, a huge part of it was I stopped working Tuesdays and Wednesdays most weeks. I might still go out, occasionally here and there, but I try to stick to times that I know are going to be more profitable, whereas a Tuesday or a Wednesday could definitely be a crapshoot. Um, and I break my days up. I think that that's been honestly like it. Could I stay out the extra 2 hours, 3 hours between lunch and dinner and make a few bucks? Sure, I could. But in my eyes, I'm going to make substantially less, and I could be making more money from home. So I just tend to avoid those hours altogether.
Honestly, there's really no hours that I avoid because I feel like there's an app. There's an app for that. I feel like it's not a slogan. There's an app for that.
There's
Like
an
there
app for
is a
that.
there's an app for that. Like there is an app at 6 o'clock in the morning that could be really good for you. Like you might be in an area that DoorDash might be good at 6 o'clock in the morning, but come eight
Mhm.
o'clock when everybody's going to work and school, it dies. And then Instacart might be good for you from like 8 to 10, and then you might get a catering order at like 10:30 or 11. Like I feel like there's always a time and a place for an app that's going to make you money. You just kind of need
Sure.
to find out what app works best during each hour of the day.
Well, and kind of like what you were just talking about too, multi-niching is a really big deal. Like during
Yeah.
off-peak hours, like that might be as much as I hate the app, that might be the time to turn on Instacart or something, right? When
Mhm.
you're not going to get the food deliveries on like DoorDash or Uber Eats or something, Instacart is the way to go. Or, like Spark or whatever. I mean, Spark is better here in the mornings, but you get my point. But
Yeah,
I think that not multi-niching is a huge mistake that
I
a
agree.
lot of drivers are going to make this year. Like I can't tell you how many conversations that I have had when I've been waiting to pick up orders, and I ask which apps they're on, and they're like, "Oh, I just do DoorDash," and I'm like, "Why?"
No. Even though DoorDash is still the biggest money maker in my market, it doesn't mean that I don't use I don't keep my other apps on. Like, if you ask me what was the busiest app in my market, I would say Uber Eats, but they also give the crappiest orders in my market as well.
Yeah, I
So,
will say I will say I have seen some of the worst Uber Eats offers that I have ever seen over this last week. I saw a $3 order that was going like 9 miles.
oh,
I
I
was
can
like,
top that. I forgot to send it to you, and I was gonna send it to you. I got a stacked order on Uber Eats this week for $3.
"That's pretty nasty too."
It was
That's yeah,
horrible.
that's bad.
It's
Uh,
horrible, but I always keep Uber Eats on Grubhub. I don't even know why I keep it on, but I keep it on. But like it can go hours without hearing even one single cowbell. I always keep Instacart on because that can always run in the background. Like there are things I always keep on. It's just that in my market, DoorDash kind of beats a lot of a lot of these apps to the punch in getting me the orders that I
yeah.
need.
So, Eric says he wants to watch me drive Instacart. Man, this guy wants to see me bring the fire. I would be so mad. That's a horrible idea. And Sarah Sue, I only work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday now. Same or better orders with less miles. I'm right there with you, Sarah. And we've got a friend here.
Hey,
You guys are all our
Louise,
friends, but
how are
this is
you?
like somebody we know in person. Luis from Delivery TV. Awesome freaking dude. What's going on, bro? So yeah, Kim. I think not multi-niching is probably. I think drivers get comfortable, and if you want to keep earning like that in my opinion is one of the smartest ways that we can adapt is do these apps during these times when they're known to be busy and then shift gears. But also, something that a lot of drivers don't think about is apps that are specific to their region or their market,
Mhm.
so like I'll use Seattle as an example. There's a few apps that only exist in Seattle that are like, popular or trendy or whatever, right? So while those apps probably won't be a thing a year or two from now, drivers in Seattle can get on these apps and ride that trend and make a bunch of money in the process while they are popular. So, that's something that you would kind of have to research for yourself in your own market. But that's another great way that you could potentially, multi niche and stay kind of above the curve with when competing with other drivers. And actually, Kim, there's there's an app
There's an
that
app for that.
there's
Just
an app for
kidding.
that. There's an app that exists, and I don't even know the name of it because the person who's on it won't tell me. But they're constantly showing me like how much they're earning on there, and it's like a great filler app because it's like all of them are like listed. It's like a pharmacy. They're all listed. Um, so you just like say, hey, it's almost like roadie, like they have to accept you to do it.
Yeah.
And so you just put in your bid or whatever, like, okay, I think I'm gonna be kind of winding down from the lunch run at this point. So I'm gonna bid on this one.
Yeah.
And like I'm blown away, right? And I have no idea what this app is. I have no idea. They won't tell me.
They wanna keep their secrets.
Yeah.
I have 2 apps that I will never tell anyone about just because it's my
Ooh,
own secret.
tell me after.
No.
Tell me after, damn it.
No.
I have no boundaries. I demand to know.
I'm like, "No."
So why, like, do they just perform that well for you, or it's just not oversaturated?
It's not oversaturated. I
Mm,
won't that's the reason why I won't tell anybody about them. They're not oversaturated. Will they make me tons of money? No, but they're good filler apps and they still produce something for me. So the minute that, I feel like the minute you get word out,
yeah.
especially in the YouTube world, like it's all of a sudden there goes at least some of the money that you are making. So there is 2 apps that I still won't tell anybody about.
Mm, okay. I'll see if I
Now
can
you're
wear
gonna
her
try to
down
figure it
there.
out. You're not gonna figure it out.
I'll see if I can wear her down after. She's not gonna tell me.
No.
So, Kim, and I think another big mistake that drivers make is seeing somebody else doing it and expecting the same results.
Hmm.
And I think that I'm gonna throw us under the bus here, Kim. I
See, I
think
was
that
looking at the show notes, and I can tell I am not gonna agree with you on this.
oh, okay. So I think that I mean, I'm not trying to, throw jabs at anybody here specifically, right? But I think that YouTubers maybe have given an unrealistic expectation of what it is like to drive for these apps because and you were not guilty of doing this, Kim. I will throw this out there.
That's where I was gonna go. I'm like,
Mm-mm.
watch it there,
No, no, no.
buddy."
No, no, no. You were not guilty of this. But there are people out there who make these extremely clickbaity videos. Watch me make 500-600 bucks in a day, right? And well, maybe there are people in very few markets in the country who that's a reality for. Like, let's be real, Kim. The vast majority of drivers won't get anywhere near that on a regular basis.
I agree to an extent. I can't talk about other YouTubers out there. I can talk about myself. So when I started um this YouTube journey and
Mhm.
also my gig work journey, I left the traditional job. I came to gig work
Yeah.
and my whole entire channel was based off of like how do I motivate people to do what I'm doing? Like, how
Yeah.
do I educate them on this is exactly what I'm doing? You can take it, you can leave it. This is exactly what I'm doing. And that's kind of what I did. I have over 1,000 ride alongs, I think, at this point. It's like, it's crazy, but I never wavered or I never falsified how long I was out. I never falsified
Right.
how much money I was making. And I always stipulated that this is my market and all markets are always different. And I
Well,
always say this. Go ahead.
and I know that for a fact you also would show when it wasn't going your way.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm talking about the people who are turning on the camera, editing the shit out of their videos, and only showing the best of the best, right? I think that that sets the wrong precedent, right?
It
But
is.
like,
But
it's okay. Sorry, hold on one second. I got a profound thought, and those are
okay.
fleeting for me. So, I think it's acceptable to do that if you're showing the reality 100% of the time. If you're like, man, I had this crazy $400 day, like you guys aren't going to believe this, but the previous 3 videos were like, hey, I'm out here for 8 hours. I made $100. Like, I think that that's okay because you're showing the true picture of what it's like in, your experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I definitely think, there's, and let's face it, YouTube is all about clicks and views. That's,
It is.
we're here to entertain you, right? So hopefully you guys are getting entertained tonight. It's all about entertaining people, but also giving the correct information as well. And I think there's a very fine line that, people skate when it comes to this side of things. I personally think, and I've always believed this, that you need to figure out for yourself what works and what doesn't work. Don't ever take the word of someone else instead of doing it yourself. Like, half of my success has come because I just go out and work and I figure it out on my own. And I think that's, the biggest, I feel like, sometimes disconnect. Like, you need to go out and find your own money, whatever that is, and you need to experiment in your own market and really find, those great areas. And if you're not, it's okay to literally quit now. It's okay to do that and go back to W2 because it wasn't working out. But I think it's a matter of people just really figuring out what works best for them. So that's kind of the way that I've always approached it. I just think people just need to be cautious, be entertained, love what you do, but also know what works in your own market.
So I think that it's not just the content creators who kind of set an unrealistic expectation. Um, I, I think it's easy to look at other drivers in our market too and be like, hey, this is, this person is making, $400 a day. I'm gonna pick on my friend Pam here, right? Pam always out earns me without fail, right? If I made $150, she made 300. If I made 200, she made 400. If I made 50, she made 400. So she's uh she hustles harder than anybody that I probably know personally. And you know, she's on all of these apps, right? And she multi apps like nobody's business. She's like a walking GPS. She possesses that market knowledge where she can look at two offers coming through at the same time and just know if they line up, right? She knows how long she's going to be waiting, if at all, and the exact route that's going to get that order done quick. So, I mean, I can't compare my numbers in the exact same market to hers, right? So if I were to do that, I would be highly, highly disappointed.
I think that goes with every market, though. You know, I have, from my own personal experience, and like a quick story is like, I have a driver in my own area I know really well, is a friend of the show's. He kills it on Grubhub. Literally is full-time Grubhub driver and kills it. Like, his earnings are ridiculous and I can't even get a cowbell to come off my phone. So like, there is always like a disconnect, but he knows all the ins and outs, and he knows,
Mhm.
when to schedule and how to become a premier driver. And I'm just like, a premier who? Like,
Yeah.
it's funny, but we just have completely different experiences, but we're both out here to make money. And I think it's learning what everybody's different experiences are to really make more money in your own market.
Yeah, for sure. So and that takes time too, right? Like you can't you my so I talked about this in a video not too long ago. My dollar per mile ratio has gone up substantially over the past few years, right? Like I was making like a dollar a mile maybe when I first started driving, and because I didn't really know what I was looking for. I was just like, oh, I'm going to take that order. I'm going to take that order. I'm not going to do this order. And now that I've learned my market, my wait times, and what to look for and what to avoid, like now my dollar per mile ratio is closer to like 3, 4, and even sometimes $5 a mile. So it can you hear my cat snoring?
No, but that's really funny.
He's he's like
It's
loud right
knocked
now.
out.
So I'm sorry if you guys can hear that. So yeah, I mean, Kim, I think that comparing ourselves to anybody else is probably a really bad idea too. I think that it's a way to set ourselves up for disappointment.
I don't think I can honestly say I've ever compared myself to somebody else, because only I know where my money's going. Like, I can
Mhm.
only be responsible for myself. I'm responsible for the money I make. I'm responsible for the orders I take. Like, I'm responsible for paying my bills. So only I can be responsible for myself. I just share the knowledge and the information that when I go out as a content creator, this is what I'm doing. This is what I've made. This is how I did it. Take it, leave it, this is what I'm doing. I have good days, I have bad days, but I think it's a personal journey and a personal experience, and I think putting a person behind the wheel and putting a person in the shoes of someone else, to me, some if it's done the right way, can motivate someone to go out, not necessarily make the same amount of money. And I think that's where the disconnect is. I think it's more about motivating people to go out and make money opposed to the exact how much money you're going to go out and make.
So I guess my whole thing here, and by the way, Kim, that's for you.
Oh, what did I? Oh, thank you,
It's like
Thomas. Much appreciated. I just got into the conversation.
you get, so I think, for me personally, my thing isn't like, hey, check out these orders. My mission as a content creator is to walk people through not getting walked on, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
And I really do try to be fair about that, if that makes sense. Like, because at this point I've had conversations with thousands of drivers all over the country. So I realize that my experience isn't the same as your experience. It's not the same as, Thomas's experience. It's not the same as Anthony's.
Mm.
So I do try to weigh that. I just think that there's common sense things that that drivers shouldn't fall for.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Kim, I want to get into the oh shoot. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate you, man. I want to get into the main subject of the conversation, and oh boy, I can feel the hate coming now. Kim, unpopular opinion time. I don't think that drivers should go full time in 2024.
I think it's a personal choice and a personal preference.
So let me clarify. Drivers should not be relying 100% on gig apps for their income.
Actually, I'll agree with that.
So I think that it is a fantastic source of income, and we can do it on our own time, right? Like it does give us the freedom in most cases to make money our way. However, just like anything, I mean, it can go sideways, right? Like I've had a vehicle break down on me that I've had to replace, and so like I've been out of the game for a couple of months before, and it's soul sucking, It Kim, before I started developing additional streams of income, right? Like I knew to the cent how much I had to make in any given day to pay my bills comfortably. And that is something that I hope that all drivers should avoid. And one of the best ways of doing that is to start to develop additional streams of income. So, I mean, at the most basic level, drivers should not rely on any one app. And I know that you and I can agree on that fully.
Yeah. Oh, wholeheartedly, I completely agree with that. I
S-
think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, I think being full time, it's tough. It's a grind. And unless you're used to doing this, it's going to take a lot of work to succeed. And it's going to take a lot of multi apping, a lot of multi niching, multiple streams of income in order to be successful the way that you want to be successful. My biggest thing with going full time, a lot of us have choices to go full time. Some of us do not have choice to go full time, meaning, you got laid off, something happened during your regular job and your traditional job, and you're like, okay, I really need to go out and work until I'd find something else. So I always give people the advice that you really need to know what bills you need to pay, how much your cost of living is. Like, just because you know how much bills you have to pay, you have to know the cost of living and how much you're going to spend in every single category, from entertainment to food to, you can break it all the way down, because you miss one step, you can literally be going the wrong direction and it might
Yeah.
not be a really good experience for you. It's tough, and I'm not saying that lightly, but find other streams of income, YouTube, open, if you're creative, open up an Etsy store. There's so many just different ways. I mean, God, you can there, if you just go onto YouTube and say, like, type in side hustles, there's like transcribing, there's so many things you can do to have multiple streams of income.
Shy Guy, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So, Kim, I have done Etsy. Okay. I made these goofy ass t-shirt designs that people actually bought.
See?
I've done it. I've done that side hustle. And
Yeah.
I've actually thought about doing a video on that at some point, like how much I made doing it and why I don't do it anymore. But I mean, I want drivers to think about okay, actually let me back up here. I think it's always good to hope for the best, but to plan for the worst. Okay. So if you plan for the worst, you're not blindsided if something does go sideways. Yes, like we talked about earlier, absolutely have a backup fund, have a replace your car fund, right? Set money aside for taxes, all that stuff. But also something else that you can do is do an extra order in the day and take that money and invest it. Like
I'm a huge
it's
Sorry, go ahead. As I say, I'm a huge believer in investing. I literally, that's why I started doing DoorDash, believe it or not. Like, when I first started, I was part time. I was doing my W-2.
Mhm.
And the whole entire point is I wanted to put money away for my daughter's college education.
Yeah.
And I started when she was one, I think. I think that's when I started when she was one. That's how long I've been doing it. She turns 7 tomorrow. And that was the whole entire point. And every single dime I made, well, not every single dime, I spent some of it, but went into a Robinhood account. And that hasn't changed. Just because I'm full time doesn't mean that every week, even every day, sometimes something goes into a Robinhood account. And I am into dividend stock investing. So that way I get a kickback on, like, the back end of it. So invest in your future, invest in whatever, your college, your kids college, whatever you need to do, definitely invest. And
So I 100% agree with you, and that's something that everybody can do. And guys, there's no plug here. There's no link we're going to try to send you
nah,
to. Do it on your own, right? Like do your own research, figure out a brokerage, and just start investing money. Do it on your own. You'll be glad 6 months from now that you did. And Kim, I actually kind of treat that like a savings account, right?
yeah.
So I've got my own investments, and I just set that aside, right? Whether the market is up, the market's down, I just set money aside regardless. And that's one thing that drivers can do. But there's the opportunities are endless, right? Like how many people have looked into medical courier? Sure, it still relies on your car, but that's a whole different thing, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not. I know a couple people who do that, and from what I hear, a it pays far better, and b it's not oversaturated.
It's not, but it's hard. From what I know,
It's
I
hard to
believe
get into.
it's hard to get into. But it's very much W-2-ish. It's not so much the freedom that we all kind of have. It's more like Amazon Flex type of
Mhm.
thing, where you're more of an employee than an independent contractor. But yes,
Yeah.
you can make money off of it.
So I'm not the smartest guy in the world here. Okay, I've never claimed to be, but uh, I'm not saying this to brag or to showboat. I had counted my sources of income, and I was up to like 8 different sources of income, Kim. And if I can do that, every single person in the chat can start developing these additional streams of income. Like you don't have to be a YouTuber. Like you don't have to like have like a bunch of affiliate links and stuff like that. There's
Yeah.
always something like we had talked about, Kim. I've done Etsy, I've done eBay, I've done Amazon, I've imported. That's a whole nother thing. Like I ran an import business for a couple of years there, and I did quite well for a while. there's always something that we can do to not rely on these apps. And Kim, I think that the single biggest mistake with the direction that we're moving in that a driver can make in 2024 is having all of your income come from gig apps.
I agree with that. And I'm going to take it a little bit further. I know there are some drivers who still only work one app. Like literally, their entire income is just DoorDash, or their entire income is just Uber Eats, or, vice versa. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I feel like with doing that, you're setting yourself like, it scares me, with people who can say, I mean, if you're doing that and you're making money, congratulations. I don't know how you're doing that, to be honest with you. I just think that there's more potential when you have multiple streams of income coming in, and I think you're literally you're investing in yourself, right? I feel
Yeah.
like every time you add another stream of income, you're giving yourself a raise in the traditional job sense. Like you're literally bringing more money in and you're giving yourself your own raise. So I'm a big fan. Learn as many things as you possibly can. Like I said, YouTube is like, we're all here watching YouTube right now. Like, it is the biggest way to learn how to do something. I learned how to
Yeah.
fix my toilet
100%.
last week. Like, learn how to do a side hustle. Learn how to like. There's just so much that you can do individually to get yourself another side hustle.
YouTube.com/Kim the Plumber. Coming soon.
It was interesting, I can tell you,
But
but it's fixed, and I got it fixed in a half hour. Save
yeah,
the
but
plumber bill.
but yeah, no, you're totally right. Like YouTube is a fantastic resource to learn just about anything, right? Before, actually, matter of fact, before the show, I was researching. I was learning a few new things. Last night on YouTube, I learned how to do something cool with audio that I didn't know how to do before, and now my videos are going to sound that much better. Because I took the time to get on YouTube and like, hey, I'm having this problem, so yeah. But guys, I want you to think about this, and I really want you to put a lot of energy into it. What can you do to start bringing in additional streams of income? And it's completely rhetorical. If you want to share your ideas in the chat, go ahead. But I just think about it. And
Yeah,
if you start working on it today, in 6 months, you'll be glad you did.
yeah.
So, and you know what? Like everybody's good at something, Kim. Everybody is good at something.
Absolutely. I'll be honest, I knew
Freelance.
absolutely nothing about YouTube when I started when I started YouTube, I thought it was just like honestly another social media outlet. Like I just like, I'll just document my, rides and, just show everybody what I do. Like it's just fun. Like I
Yeah.
just thought it was fun. Like there is so much behind it that you teach yourself. Like I taught myself how to edit. I taught myself how to do different softwares, different audios. Like there is like everything I've done has always been self-taught, but I've learned it through YouTube. Like you're never look at me, you're never too old to learn something new. Like I started my YouTube journey in my I won't even tell you how old I was. But anyway, now
24.
that I'm 24, there we go. Um, oh god, that would be a really long time from where I am right now. Now, but I'm in my oh, next month I can honestly say I'm in my mid 40s, but I'm in my mid 40s, and you start something new and you learn something new. You're never too old to learn something.
That's very true. I want to highlight this one though because I love this. So Jason Krug says I'm learning how to tattoo,
That's
and
awesome.
right. I mean, like from a heavily tattooed heathen myself, that's super cool, right? But also, it's a skill that's never gonna die out.
No.
You can go anywhere and do that, right? And like you guys will be shocked once you start doing something new and making connections. That can open so many more doors. Like I
Yeah.
started doing YouTube, right? And now all of a sudden I'm getting paid to edit other people's videos and to do some voiceover work here and there.
Yeah.
Like the route that you take could open so many additional avenues up to you.
Yeah.
So there's my spiel. So Start getting those additional streams of income. And, and really, like, I'm not going to try to push anybody into a W-2 here, Kim, but I think
You
that the
know,
goal should be not being reliant on the apps.
no,
I love doing
and
them, but I would hate to be 100% financially reliant on them.
I agree. I think, first of all, if gig work isn't working for you, it's perfectly okay. Never feel bad about going back to a W-2 if that's a better decision
If
for
that's
you.
what you got to
Whatever
do.
whatever is going to make you the most amount of money, whether it
Mhm.
is the W-2 and whether you need to quit now and go back, do whatever you need to do to go make your money. Or you can do a hybrid version, some W-2, some gig work. It's whatever works for you and your own income and your own
Yeah.
situation. Me personally, unless something drastically changes, I love being my own boss and making my own money. So, I'm always going to find a way to make it work.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I think all of us kind of have that mentality already that we don't necessarily want to work a W-2 or at least more than we have to, right? I mean, because like, let's be real, those of us with a W-2, we're doing gig work because we're probably not doing overtime in most cases. So I think that we already kind of have that self-employed mentality and do it for ourselves, kind of drive. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think we're going to wrap up here, but a couple reminders. So we are now a podcast as well. Just be sure that if you're listening to us, you're either catching us on YouTube on Kim Side Money Plans or Zach Drives Fast. Or if you listen to the podcast version, make sure it is explicitly branded How We Hustle. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we may add more down the road, in which case we would tell you. The links to the podcasts are in the description. You can also email us anything interesting that you want to talk to us about, whether it's funny experiences you had, like stuff that no other driver should have to deal with, or something weird. It's howwehustleYT@gmail.com. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Also, add this number to your phone list. You can text us. It's 678 888 3910. And while you're out and about on the go, that is a fantastic way to reach us. Just remember that we only check this maybe once every 3-4 days, once every week. So
Send
it's
us those screenshots.
send us screenshots. Yeah. So it's just not going to be like a back and forth type of conversation. And please don't be offended if it takes us a few days to get back to you. So yeah, few ways to get a hold of us there. And finally, oh, of course, I forgot to do our next show slide, Kim. Our next show is going to be on the 21st of this month. So February 21st, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you then.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.